All right, so let's talk about the wildest movie we saw this year, and that movie is Saltburn. Now, Saltburn is a next film from Emerald Fennel, coming off their directorial debut of Promising Young Woman, which I know a lot of people don't really like. And, I see your points and all of that, and I do want to have that larger discussion closer to the release of Saltburn. So let me know your thoughts on Promising Young Woman, if you like it or not, and why. Very interesting conversation that I didn't have any clue until I was looking into Emerald Fennel. But let's talk about her latest film, which is Saltburn. Saltburn, when I first saw the trailer, I immediately knew, yes, that is going to be a good film. And so when I went in to watch this film, I was very excited about it. And let me tell you, did it meet my expectations? Is it everything I wanted? And what? So before we get into it, let me tell you we are running a giveaway right now. If you want to enter the giveaway, you definitely have to go follow us on Instagram and comment on the Gran Turismo post that you want to enter the giveaway, and make sure you're following us on Instagram. We will announce the winner on Friday. But let's get into Saltburn and my thoughts and opinions on the film. So first and foremost, you have Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, as well as Rosamund Pike in this. They are pretty much like the standouts for me for sure, but you also have other actors in this, including Richard E. Grant, Alison Oliver, as well as Archie Metquay. And Carey Mulligan also makes an appearance. So this film basically follows this guy who goes to college, and eventually he's like, you know what, that guy over there is pretty cool. And so the guy that goes to college is Barry Keoghan, and he's going to Oxford University, and he meets Jacob Elordi's character, which he becomes sort of infatuated with. Eventually some things happen and they grow a little bit closer, and then eventually he's invited over back for the summer at Jacob Elordi's house, and that's when things just go off the rails. So I don't want to give too much away. I'm very, very vague about how much I'm saying, but let me just start off by saying I think that this movie definitely feels grand, and one of the big things about it is that it has this very peculiar look to it. It is set in the early 2000s, which is interesting to me as well. We are in the early 2000s core, which is kind of interesting, and I will say, somebody growing up in the early 2000s, this definitely feels like the early 2000s for sure. So that is definitely something I did enjoy about the film. Maybe it's the nostalgia bait or whatever, but it got to me and I appreciate it. Dialogue here is really great as well. I think that a lot of the dialogue is very snappy, very fast paced, and feels very genuine at the same time. There's a lot of times when they try to make young people in general sound like they are trying to be edgy in all of this, or the conversation feels like it's somebody in their 40s writing for a 17-year-old whatever, and you can just tell, right? Like, there's words, there's phrases, there's ways they say things that just don't sound like they would say them. In this film, it sounds like they would say these things for sure, and it feels very genuine and very natural, if you will. I guess that's the word I was trying to look for. So I really enjoyed that. The dialogue here is king, and I really, really do want to see this film again, just for those interactions with certain characters, those back and forths. Just great stuff. I will say that the look of the film as well is very sharp. It's very sleek. It's very colorful at the same time, but bleak also, which makes a fun contrast, especially depending on certain things happening between certain characters. There's a lot of close-ups here, which also adds more to this sort of feeling of tense, this feeling of tension that's brewing throughout the whole movie, because that's exactly what the movie is doing. It's sort of like turning on the stove and you're watching this pot of hot water boil and boil and boil more, and you're just wondering, is that going to tip over? What's about to happen? And I think that's just something that's done very masterfully here by Emerald Fennel, where these shots, this dialogue, these scenes are amplified by all of this as well, including the score, which was just great as well. But for sure, we have to give it up to also the main actors here. I think Barry Keoghan is such a great actor in the making. We are seeing him evolve into these characters. I really loved him ever since I saw him in Eternals for the first time, and I thought that this is somebody who I'm going to be wanting to see more of and more of. I really do hope we get to see more of him in the Batman movie, as we saw he was the Joker in that. So I'm really hoping we get more of that, because I think that he is such a great actor with a lot of range, and I would love to see that range be brought onto the big screen even more. And especially in this movie, the range is incredible. That's all I'll say before I get into spoiler talk later on in another video. I also think Rosamund Pike is great in this. Like Rosamund Pike, another one that when I first saw them for the first time, which was in Gone Girl in theaters, it just completely blew my mind away, honestly. Just a great actress that can like change with a snap into something completely different, and not as much as her character Amy in Gone Girl, but here it is something also that is subtle that happens. There's just these moments where her facial expression can go from one to another, and you just see these very different characters in her, and it's just great to see them evolve. I really do think that this movie doesn't have many flaws in my opinion. I think it is one of my favorite films of the year so far. It is definitely the wildest movie of the year in my opinion. There are some things, however, that I do think kind of needed to be trimmed. I feel like this movie was a little bit too long for its own good, because it's a film that as soon as it starts and it gets you, it's just a fun ride. But there are moments where we're going and it feels like we're going like this at the beginning, really fast, really fun, all of this, and then we take our first little like drop and it's scary and we're just like, oh, that just happened. And then we're back on the fast ride and we take another drop, like, whoa, this just happened, and we just go into the ending and there's just like too many drops, and at a point it's not as amusing. It's a little bit more like, what's gonna happen next now, right? Like you got a twist coming in, you got something coming in. I think that the movie suffers from that, trying to be too twisted and having too much like, but did you notice this type scenarios, and that's kind of its downfall in my opinion, because it can't really find and land an ending. And there are moments where I felt like this could have ended and it would have been the strongest, one of the best endings of the year. But then it decides to go on a little bit longer, and I'm just like, oh, this is a movie that can't find its ending. Whereas opposed to, I think, like a movie that was a little bit longer, which I saw actually the day prior, which was Killers of the Flower Moon. I thought that had a great ending at one point, and then it continued a little bit, and then it had an even better ending. And, that's how it goes sometimes. But overall, I think Emerald Fennel has another great movie on their hands. I'm excited to see people's reactions to this once we get a full release, and everybody, the discourse is going to be insane with a couple of the scenes. I can already know that for sure. But I really loved it, and I'm excited to see it again with a full crowd, because I think this is one that's to experience with a crowd. It is wild, a hard R for sure, and definitely one that I think is just going to be talked about for years to come for sure. Do I think it's better in Promising Young Woman? 100%. This is definitely light years away, in my opinion, than Promising Young Woman, but I leave it up to you. Let me know what you think once you watch it. Make sure you're following us wherever you are. As I said, we are running a giveaway right now. If you want to enter that giveaway for the digital code for the Gran Turismo film, make sure you follow us on Instagram and make sure you comment on the Gran Turismo post. And also, make sure you follow us here. We will do 2 giveaways, one on YouTube and one here. So wherever you're watching, you can do 2 entries. We'll do one for the YouTube contest and one for Instagram, and we'll announce a winner on Friday. But we give Saltburn 4 stars out of 5. It was just those like endings that felt like a good ending, and then it continued, and then it felt like a good ending, and then continued, and we were just done with it. But the acting, the cinematography, the score, the direction, the writing is like top tier. We're all amazing. So definitely give this one a watch if you like Promising Young Woman. And like I said, it is a hard R, so know that going in. But anyways, I'll see all of you next time. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, all that good stuff. On the road to 31,000 subscribers. Stay safe, stay positive.